Alright, I exist. Hi, I'm Tolg, and I exist. Um, Created this channel out of desperation. Don't know how many videos I'm gonna say that. Maybe all of them. Maybe that's the thing I'll keep up. I don't know. ICAS, if that bothers you, go away. I generally probably will use this channel mostly to rant. This video is me reading Marguerite Porete, The Miorror of Simple Souls. She was burned at the stake for heresy for writing this. Lived or wrote this, not sure which is applicable there, 1100 AD. Anything else? There are unidentifiable noises outside. So far, she's a bitch, and we're worthless. As the prologue, chapter 1, sums up that we're not going to be able to understand this book if we use wisdom and reasoning, because it's built of, sin and earthliness, secular ideation. And the second chapter through the fourth chapter just continues to reiterate the same thing, essentially. Second chapter is merely less than a paragraph and says what the first chapter says. And then I think the third chapter insinuates that you're not worth the perfect life. Or no, that's the fourth chapter insinuates what the third chapter called perfect life is actually refuse. And we are not worthy of refuse. Actually, now that I'm saying it aloud, that's pretty Catholic of her. So she also wrote this book utilizing 3 different entities, dividing herself essentially into 3 different things, that being the soul within, and the author being her consciousness, and love being what she understood of God. And I believe the reason this was considered heresy was partially in lieu of the fact that the soul was still, as it is still, hotly debated on. And she insinuates that one can communicate with the soul. We'll probably eventually get to it, but yeah, that's... So yeah, I presume that she has some ideation of dissociative identity disorder, and that as a Béguinage nun, this was her means of being in control of what happened to her, both simultaneously repenting for anything that she understood herself to be less than significant because of, and to take power back from sources that would have stolen it from her due to being a woman in 1100 AD. Okay, so having said all of that, chapter 5 is of the life which is called the peace of charity in the annihilated life. There is nothing up to this point that identifies what annihilated life means. It will go on from here. I will stop a lot and rant, as is my prerogative. And I am assuming annihilated life to be a goal. Like non-denominational church, which essentially just means, hey, we don't teach any denomination and therein everything is game. It teaches that, secular is bad, flesh is bad, give yourself over to the Lord. You'll find it actually very common in non-denominational church that a lot of people are suicidal, on the premise of, they just want this perfect heaven that is promised. And fuck what they have now. So everybody lives to not be alive, essentially. And you're supposed to give everything over to God, yourself included. Non-denominational preaches that you don't have a self, that it's very sinful to have a self, to identify as an individual. So this is authorship of love. Thus there is another life, which we call the peace of charity in the annihilated life. Okay, so that's just one whole thing. Of this life, says love, we wish to speak in asking what one could find. So this is now 1 through 9, a list of what one finds in the peace of annihilated love. Oh, my bad. The peace of charity in the annihilated life. So the peace that is brought about from giving in a life that is gone. What one can expect from that. 1, a soul. Okay. 2, who is saved by faith without works. The without works part, again, is not, substantiated by any claim. There's nothing substantial to say about that. Works of faith, works of sin, works of evil, works in general. It was in, I believe, chapter 4 that it says everything you do, you should do for God. Your strength, you love God through your strength, meaning you are made stronger by doing everything in regard to wanting to give it to God for God's sake. So without works confuses me. 3, who is only in love. 4, who does nothing for God. So that's the part, again, where it's like, okay, so this is all what you can expect, meaning it's all good. It's a good turnout from an annihilated life due to the peace of charity. And then it just says, who does nothing for God. So we were supposed to do everything for God, faith without works. Now we're doing nothing for God immediately afterward. Why not? Contrast helps you understand things better, right? 5, who leaves nothing to do for God, so the person has now made God useless. All-powerful entity right there. 6, to whom nothing can be taught. Much like the writer of this book, on the premise of they are so great, everyone else is too stupid to understand what they wrote, negging is a great way to sell. It's a perfect plan of selling anything, whether that be yourself to someone else, or you neg them to buy you, or, you're selling an idea, shoes, fashion. Fashion is definitively, absolutely always sold on the premise of you are not good enough, so you need this to make you good enough. Religion is always sold on that premise as well. 7, from whom nothing can be taken. Now again, chapter 4 went over charity like none other, and charity is supposed to give everything away. So this list, I am confused. Is this good or bad? Some of it seems good. Most of it seems bad. 8, from whom nothing can be taken. 8 is nor given, which doesn't make grammatical sense. From whom nothing can be given. I can be given nothing from you. I guess it makes sense, in a weird way. 9, and who possesses no will, which goes against, like, hey, give yourself over to God. You live for God. All your thoughts revolve around God. I still don't know if this list is good or bad. Maybe it's what you're supposed to do. Maybe you're supposed to possess no will. I don't know. Again, the authorship of love. Alas, says love, who will give to the soul what is lacking to her? Oh, okay, it's a list of bad things. An annihilated soul is a bad thing. So revisiting it, you'll find a soul. You will find a soul, even in an annihilated soul. Which that automatically doesn't make sense. Annihilation is just the complete lack of something. It's gone. 2, who is saved by faith without works, so that's what could happen, not what you would find. 3, who is only in love. Love is not capitalized there, so it's not the entity love. That part still remains confusing. 4, who does nothing for God. That makes sense if you're saying this person sucks. 5, who leaves nothing to do for God, because that would make them all powerful, and you're supposed to not be powerful when you believe in God. Bad. Don't do that. 5, who leaves nothing to do for God. 6, to whom nothing can be taught. Obviously bad. 7, from whom nothing can be taken, because charity is good. 8, nor given. Someone who cannot have things be given to them is bad. I don't agree with that. Don't give me smallpox. I don't want it. No one wants it. You keep your sickness over there. Not everything should be given. Not everything should be given. I'm not gonna take that, so yeah. 9, and who possesses no will. So that's a bad thing, to possess no will. Although everything you do is supposed to be for God, so technically you're not supposed to possess an individual's will. Hi, bud. But, whatever. Their boat is floating. Maui, do not open that door. Don't. Good boy. Alas, says love, who will give to this soul that is lacking to her, for it was not ever given, is not now given, nor will be. So, wait. You will find a soul in the annihilated soul, but now you have to give the soul to the annihilated soul, because even when you find the soul, they don't have a soul? Love, this soul, says love, has 6 wings, like the seraphim. The soul exists again, and it has morphed. She no longer wants anything which comes by a mediary. This is the proper being of the seraphim. So now she's a seraphim. It was just like a seraphim. She has become the final form. There is no mediary between their love and the divine love. So this is now a good thing. They always possess newness without a mediary, and so also for this soul, for she does not seek divine knowledge among the masters of this age, but in truly despising the world and herself. Ouch, dude. Great God. Is that exclamatory, or is this just calling out to an individual? How great a difference there is between a gift from a lover to a beloved through a mediary, and a gift that is between lovers without a mediary. Okay, so without a mediary is a good thing, which means not seeking knowledge from divine knowledge among masters of this age is also a good thing, and despising the world and herself is a good thing. Despising the world and herself, and thus getting knowledge from having done so, is a good thing. And we're back to understanding the annihilated soul is a good thing, because it gives you no idol between you and the love for God or God. I just remember the preface did go over a story in which a princess heard of a king, I believe the great King Alexander was what it quoted, and she fell in love from a distant kingdom but could not have him due to him being so lofty, but she had immediate access to his friends. And that's supposed to be a metaphor for the human's love for God. Does not state who the friends are, but I assume the friends are saints because this is all done under Catholicism. And so it gets to this point where she says that through her soul. Oh, okay, so maybe annihilated soul, she kills her soul off and is granted a new soul, and in being granted this new soul by God, she has a better connection to God and is thusly made a more significant lover of God. I could understand why they would understand that to be heresy. Totally. Yep. Although there is a saint. I hate her the most because she is fucking tragic. Saint Catherine of Siena. She was thoroughly abused as a child by her family. And so in the abuse, she decided that she would get over it by understanding her abusers to be the 12 apostles. So every time someone laid a hand on her, or however that abuse was dealt, she just presumed, oh, and I think her parents were Mary and Joseph, she presumed that, it was deserved, it was going to help her, this is what God wants for me. That's how she got over it, by essentially Stockholm syndroming herself. Stockholming herself? And she would grow out and drink the cancerous pus of a patient and live and prove therein that she is a saint. And then have hallucinations about Jesus coming to her and laying with her. And she will never reach that level of epiphany, or what is it called? Not epiphany. Just euphoria ever again. And so she marries Jesus, and Jesus marries her by giving her his foreskin and tying it around her hand. And the Catholic Church embalmed her hand and has it in a glass case on display because, they can't get rid of Jesus's foreskin. And I reference that because this sounds a lot like that. A lot like that. It's always, I think, dangerous. But I have, benefit of hindsight living in 2025 versus 1100 AD. I also have the benefit of certain women's rights. 2025 in the US, some of them might be getting to a point of being taken away. Let's hope not. But definitely more rights than a woman had in 1100 AD, and therein, I find it, I guess, a little bit easier to keep the mind to regain a mind I could lose. And support myself therein. So this is just, handing yourself over to the abuses of the time, giving into the abuses, and settling for them, and then losing your mind, because it's so much easier to deal with than dealing with everything else you'd have to go through. So making Jesus your lover for a time when women were property, and being a nun was being the lowest in society, was probably a means of elevating your ego, your ideation of why you should stay alive. Look, I am important. I deserve love in a safe way. And I guess you still find that in Christian society, which is probably why the church still refers to themselves as lovers of Jesus, because holy Mr. Misogyny, what good is a wife when your church teaches you that she ought to stay silent, shut the fuck up, and take it? At that point, you just want a doll. So, back to the book. Love speaks again. This book speaks the truth about this soul in saying that she has 6 wings like the seraphim. That's a weird claim. With 2 wings, she covers her face from Jesus Christ our Lord. Very Jewish. That means that the more this soul has understanding of the divine goodness, the more perfectly she understands that she understands nothing about it. Okay, solid philosophy. Compared to one spark of his goodness, for his goodness, his is capitalized, is not comprehended except by himself, capitalized. So that's God. Can everything truly understand itself? I assume that must be what hippies mean when they say we're all ascending and will be of one mind. Is God essentially understanding itself all at the same time? Because I would have to assume part of being omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent is that, yeah, sure, God can create a rock that God cannot lift. In that one part of God can create a huge rock and the other part of God cannot lift it. So each existence onto whenever it exists can understand itself wholly, meaning that every aspect of God at some point in time has understood itself. But to say that God can understand itself in all of time, well, if God is infinite, then it would have to be able to understand itself in all of time. And in theory, all of time does not mean all at once. Though, also, in theory, all of time is happening all at once, especially if you believe in the infinite. Which gets me stuck on what Da Vinci said. Let's see. If I can get that out easily. So, I have Da Vinci's notebook, and let's see if I can easily find what really messed me up. You know, one thing that I love that Da Vinci said, while I thought that I was learning how to live, I have been learning how to die. He's such a romantic. Oh, okay, I found it. Nothingness has no center, and its boundaries are nothingness. My opponent says that nothingness and a vacuum are one and the same thing, having indeed 2 separate names by which they are called, but not existing separately in nature. The reply is that whenever there exists a vacuum, there will also be the space which surrounds it, but nothingness exists apart from occupation of space. It follows that nothingness and a vacuum are not the same, for the one is divisible to infinity, and nothingness cannot be divided because nothing can be less than it is. And if you were to take part from it, this part would be equal to the whole, and the whole to the part. But in order to have everything, you cannot have nothing. Sorry, you cannot not have nothing. In order to have everything, you need to have nothing. See? Fucked up, right? Okay. So we're back to talking about the soul and how it has 6 wings, like a seraphim. And she covers her face because she's stupid, and she knows she's stupid. Essentially, she's not stupid. No one's supposed to understand infinity, but infinity itself and beyond. With the 2 others, the soul flies and dwells in being and rest. Thus, all that she understands and loves and praises of the divine goodness are the wings by which she flies. So she has annihilated all of her senses? Her experiences only come through sight? What is happening? Dwelling in being, she is always in the sight of God, and in rest, she dwells forever in the divine will. I mean, it's a nice sentiment, but there's nothing to support it. And where did these wings come from? What do these wings represent? In the level of insanity that I presume she is living in, I think full well she understands herself to have wings, that they just don't take a physical manifestation in her life. But after that, I don't make sense of any of it. I do not understand why she would only understand God through flying. And also, if God is perfect and flying is in existence inside of God, then why would one need to rest? And only in resting is there an existence within divine will. In flying, your existence exists outside of divine will. And what, nay, how would such a soul have fear? Certainly she would neither be able nor need to fear anything or to doubt. For even if she should be in the world, and if it should be possible that the world, flesh, devil, the four elements... Well, she never got into Wicca, now did she? And the birds of the air, and the savage beasts... Most would assume the savage beasts means humanity. Torment, and dismember, or devour her. That's biblical. She cannot fear anything if God dwells in her. For he is everywhere present, omnipotent, omniscient, I like saying it that way, and total goodness. He is our Father, our brother, and our loyal lover. No, thank you. That is far too biblical for me. Reference Lot. A very hated biblical story of mine is not necessarily the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah as cities come and go. Everything in time comes and goes. It is Lot himself. You know, he was the most loved in all of the land, and the sin of sodomy, was being greedy. The angels came down and said, yo, look, we gotta go. And he's like, but I would like to save some people. I would like to save the greedy. Even though God is saying no. I'd like to argue God. But he's the holiest. And these angels said, okay, we'll wait. And then Lot was like, oh fuck, these really greedy people are gonna see their beauty and they're going to gangbang them in the streets. How about this? I'll bring the angels inside and give my 2 daughters to the streets to be gangbanged in their stead. So he did that. That happened. Definitively. The holiest man in that area. And so the angels said, hey, flee, take your wife, tell everybody to not look back. Part of me thinks that Lot's wife looked back purposefully because she was looking at living in a close-knit, area, close quarters, with that kind of a man who just sent her daughters to be raped by the entire town that he's gonna watch get murdered. And then he lives in this cave system with his 2 daughters, and he thinks to himself, my bloodline needs to continue. Obviously, I'm great, right? And so he fucks his daughters. That's the story of Lot. Hate him. Why was I talking about that? Oh, right. Biblical. Our brother, he's our father, our brother, and our loyal lover. Ta-da! That's why I said it was biblical. Then you also have the other reference where I said, holy shit, that's biblical, where she says, even if she gets torn apart by savage beasts and they torment and dismember or devour her, She cannot fear anything if God dwells in her. So fun story time. There was a queen of an opposing country, and one that the country that led the war against this opposing country was Christian led. So the area is like ancient Syria, I think. Could be Babylonia. So her country was conquered. And the king said, okay, I take you as tribute, as concubine. So he forced her into essentially a slave contract of marriage, and said, you need to convert to our religion. And she held out through their entire marriage. So the Christian Bible wrote her in as like a fucking evil queen because she would not convert. However, if you look at the mythology, and maybe I should just read the book next, Myths of Babylon. If you look at the mythology, there are stories like Noah and Moses, and Jesus himself is split between several different stories for, all of these mythological tales and where their roots are actually from. So presumably, if I'm putting myself in her shoes, I'm thinking I'm not taking on, this militaristic movement of the next religion that you're introducing, because essentially you're just praising what I am praising, and I am remaining diligent to what I know, which is also what God asks of people, is to remain diligent. It's what any religion asks of anyone. Praise me above anyone else. And so she was being respectful in what she understood. However, again, written into the Bible as the worst. I want to say it was actually Queen Jezebel. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. And so, as a punishment from the Christian God, she was locked in a tower and just happened, to fall out a window where there were hunting dogs at the base of this tower that ripped her apart while she was still alive. So, fun fact of torture and medieval torture. It happened in War of the Roses as well, where, locking a royal in a tower is a means of killing someone without having a direct hand in it, so you cannot be blamed for murdering a royal and come down with the payment price for it. And it is a horrific death. Dying of starvation, and specifically dying of dehydration, sends you into shock, sends your whole body into shock. You start hallucinating. So more likely she was hallucinating, wildly hallucinating, starved. The tumble was probably due to like extreme malnourishment and maybe suffering these hallucinations. Not feeling something as the dogs would rip her apart. I'm not sure how real that is, though she's ungodly, so as the dogs devour her, she might have felt it. According to the Christian religion, she's ungodly. According to her own religion, she is very godly and devout. So, eye of the beholder. But yeah, those are the references to very biblical. The Bible is not a love story. It's kind of this huge, fictitious work of incredible opera, I guess. You have tragedy, you have comedy, you have everything. And a lot of it's really horrific if you really actually look at it. So now we're done with that. God's infinite, and the annihilated soul has 6 wings, and 2 of those wings make it so that one would remain so knowledgeable they would come to understand that they know nothing by lessening what they see. And then the in between of that is confusing. Flying means you exist in God, but resting means you exist in his divine will. So he can only enact his will on you or the annihilated soul if you are at rest. Oh, and then there's like a lot more confusing things in the beginning about the annihilated soul has to be given a soul, but has a soul, because in annihilated soul, what is found there is a soul. And at that point, you know, the soul has been said so many times that it has lost its meaning. Maybe that's why if you read this through wisdom and reason, you won't understand it, and only the truly divine will, because it is seeming that the truly divine, at least divine women of the time, were a little insane. A lottle insane. Chapter 6. How the soul, made loving by God, living in the peace of charity, takes leave of the virtues. So the virtues is what you need in order... Buddy. I love you, sweetheart. In order to be a perfect soul. What time is it? That is not a time, bud. But you're right. Okay, I'll feed you. I don't know what I was saying. Don't know if it matters. La 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 la. Oh, okay, so the rest of chapter 5 just goes into talking about how God is, you know, it seems, okay, so there's this phenomenon. I don't know if it always happens, if it's like a perfect study of science, if it sometimes happens, or if it's just a noticed pattern that can happen. But in schizophrenic patients, like honest to God schizophrenia, where you're plagued by thoughts and voices, there is this tendency to, when notebooking or journaling, you know, do so in a spiral pattern where everything has like this, where's the camera? Spiral thing where it'll start here and then it'll go here or other way around. And the thought, I guess, behind it is when you read any schizophrenic journal, the level of repetition, the mentions of the same thing, the honing in on specificity of one subject, and yeah, so I don't know, this kind of, the last portion of this kind of gives religious psychosis a little bit with, it says, for he is everywhere, present, omnipotent, omniscient, and total goodness. He is our Father, our brother, and our loyal lover. He is without beginning. He is incomprehensible except by himself. He is without end, 3 persons, and one God. And as such, says this soul, he is the lover of our souls. So that was, you know, he is. And at that point, it almost feels like it was drilled into her person, and no thought could be had outside of God. Much like she wrote in the beginning of this book, have no thought outside of God. If you were a woman that was not owned by a man, especially in 1100 AD, probably up until the 1980s, you know, it was understood that you were unruly, that you could not be trusted, you know, that what came from your brain, from your thoughts, was more than likely misleading, and definitively almost always ungodly, that you needed a man to set you right. And I think it has everything to do with Adam and Eve. Instead of understanding the Bible to be a metaphor, taking it very literally and saying you can do nothing without my supervision. When in fact, if you were to take it very literally, it was Adam that was like, oh yeah, God told me this, like told me directly, and I was supposed to direct Eve and tell her what not to do, but now she's offering me this apple, it looks good, so I may as well do it, and then turn around and blame her. Which has set, a pretty standard repetitive means of action between men and women. So, maybe there's something there. I don't know. But yeah, so it would make sense that because single women were not trusted to lead themselves in a healthy direction, that a nun would have it driven into her to an abusive extent, that God is, anything that God would have been understood to have been. So I'm not sure if this religious fervor, religious psychosis is something that is chemically coming about more than the chemicals are a side effect being produced in her person from, other people continuously emotionally beating her down, psychologically having her repeat things. The imagery of Bart Simpson writing on the chalkboard, "Eat my shorts," in repetition instead of conforming comes to mind, which is just, the act of taking a child or an individual and having them repeat whatever you're saying as a means of brainwashing them into doing it. And how we don't do that anymore because we understand it to be abusive. That is very much what this comes across. And I don't know whether to attribute that to psychosis or fervor or just generalized abuse. I would like to say it's the side effects to being abused. Imagine that, you get abused, told you're nothing. You write this whole book in a means of trying to ascertain something for yourself, and then you're burned at the stake for it. Wild. Chapter 6. How the soul made loving by God, living in the peace of charity, takes leave of the virtues. Okay, that's where I left off. My bad. So yeah, there's supposed to be 7 virtues that save the soul from this imperfect existence and make it valuable. Charity was the first virtue. The annihilated soul is the best soul. So it did kind of jump around there. It didn't go into the second virtue. It just went straight into saying, you suck. Kill yourself and maybe you'll get something better out of that. Kill yourself without killing yourself. And I am not giving advice on that. Do not take that out of context. I think that if you have been granted a life, you ought to see what that can produce. I think it is a good thing to try to struggle through things. At the very least, you'll end up being something, and that's worth the experience. Sometimes. Yeah, touchy subject. Nuance. Anyways, getting back to this. Love, this soul by such love, says love herself, can say to the virtues that for a long time and for many days she has been in their service. What? This soul, and the soul is now capitalized again, so it's back to being the entity unto itself. Love is not capital by such love, says love herself. So that's just an interjection. Can say to the virtues, and now the virtues have been capitalized, so they're now being introduced as entities unto themselves. That for a long time and for many days she has been in their service. So the soul is in the virtues' service. So we're back again, like I said. Now the soul is writing, I confess to you, lady love, says this soul, there was a time when I belonged to them, but now it is another time. Your courtliness has placed me outside their service, and thus to them I can now say and sing. It was not specified who they are, but I would have to assume that it is in reference to the virtues, and I thought it was a good thing to be in service of the virtues. But I guess if you are outside of the service of virtues, you can now sing. Virtues. I take my leave of you forever. I will possess a heart most free and gay. Your service is too constant, you know well. Once I placed my heart in you, retaining nothing. You know that I was to you totally abandoned. I was once a slave to you, but now am delivered from it. I had placed my heart completely in you, you know well. Thus I lived a while in great distress. I suffered in many grave torments, many pains endured. Miracle it is that I have somehow escaped life. This being so, I no longer care. I am parted from you, for which I thank God on high. Good for me this day. I am parted from your dominations, which so vexed me. I was never more free, except as departed from you. I am parted from your dominations. In peace I rest. I want to say that, this is the dying breath of the annihilated soul, and thus the relevance for talking about the annihilated soul in the prior chapter. So this has already gone through the 7 virtues, escalated itself, ascended past the 7 virtues, died, and then was granted the seraphim wings. Oh, and if you are quote-unquote secular of the world, never having been raised in the church, seraphim is a type of angel. There is a hierarchical standing of angels. Each given a title or a species denoting, how they look. And in regards to how angels look, there is also a system. So the least powerful you are and the most powerful you are as an angel is going to make you look the most human, hominoid. Everything in between is scaled up and down from that. So the closer you get to the center between, least and most powerful, you're going to get the wildest looking angels, the ones that, the lion that's covered in eyeballs, the 6-faced chariot angel with 8 wings or something that rotates its head. Yeah, so seraphim is among, oh goodness, I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's one of the more powerful ones, not the most powerful. Scaling down from looking entirely non-hominoid back to more hominoid, but still retaining the 6 wings. I think seraphim is also something that deals in fire, which again may give reference to the abuse she was under for the time. This whole paragraph, while it does play into what I can only assume is the dying breath of the annihilated soul before she's granted this new soul that makes her closer to God, this all just reads like she has been thoroughly torn apart. Like the virtues, the escalation through the 7 virtues have destroyed her. And a lot of Christianity teaches that you need to destroy yourself in order to be closer to God, because what you have been made from is only earthly, and thus what is earthly needs to be gone from you. Which may also give rise to why the reference of seraphim, fire burning it all away, being reborn, much like, the Chinese tales of the phoenix. Even in that, it definitely feels like okay, I've had enough, I've broken, stop abusing me. I'm new now. You can't hurt me anymore. And I guess, again, giving reference to Seraphim being related to fire, I can't say it's poetic, but the relation to being burned at the stake, maybe when she was being burnt at the stake, she came to a conclusion of having risen above it. Maybe she was finally released from all the abuse. One can only hope. Yeah, it's really hard to read a lot of these, branches off of religion, especially from women of this time, because it's just horrific abuse, really. A lot of it is. So chapter 7, soul is capitalized, how this soul is noble, and how she takes no account of anything. In chapter 4, Charity teaches you to do a lot of things. One of those things is essentially not pay attention to anything. So this is the author of this passage here is Love. This soul, says Love, takes account of neither shame nor honor, of neither poverty nor wealth, of neither anxiety nor ease, of neither love nor hate, of neither hell nor of paradise. Which is the essential final form of altruism. It is what altruism is supposed to be. So I guess she holds, altruistic soul as the final form of passing through all these 7 virtues. The perfect soul is altruistic, but also that would be something that is content, be sated. I guess giving reference to the abuse again. And now reason is the author, which we were not supposed to use, so I'll remain confused. For God's sake, Love, says reason, what does this mean? What you have said. Now Love is the author, what does this mean? Says Love. Certainly the one knows this, and no other, to whom God has given the intellect. For Scripture, now that is capitalized, which I guess it's the living word, so it makes sense, does not teach it, nor the human mind comprehend it, nor does creaturely work deserve to grasp it or comprehend it. Thus this gift is given from the Most High, into whom this creature is carried by the fertility of understanding, and nothing remains in her own intellect. Oh, that sounds like a possession. Or what the alien community would call a walk-in. It sounds like you've just committed suicide without committing suicide, which is, giving reference to the annihilated soul. Essentially saying, I opt out of being alive, God take the wheel. And this soul who has become nothing, thus possesses everything, and so possesses nothing. Which is, going back to the reference of what Da Vinci argued, or what can be argued off of what Da Vinci said, you cannot have everything without having nothing. And then giving reference to what Da Vinci said, having nothing is not having a bit of something. It is the equivalent to literally nothing. Nothing equates onto itself only. So you cannot have everything if you have nothing. Which, spiral. Cannot have everything if you don't have nothing. She wills everything and she wills nothing. She knows all and she knows nothing. Then reason speaks, and how can it be, lady love, says reason, that this soul can will what this book says, when before it said that she had no more will? Then love responds, reason, says love, it is no longer her will which wills, but now the will of God wills in her. She said that way too many times. Will. For this soul dwells not in love, which causes her to will this through desiring something. Instead, love dwells in her who seized her will, and love accomplishes love's will in her. Thus, love works in her without her, which is why no anxiety can remain in her. So yeah, it's just committing suicide to yourself, and at that point, why would your creator create you if your creator just wanted an avatar in the first place? This soul, says love, no longer knows how to speak about God, for she is annihilated from all her external desires and interior sentiments, from all affection of spirit, so that what this soul does, she does by practice of good habit according to the commandment of the Holy Church, without any desire, for the will is dead, which gave desire to her. And again, I reference one more time that she must have been beat to shit psychologically by the church. You are a woman, you are not supposed to have a will, you do what you're told, you cannot be trusted intellectually, ideologically, and so she just complied. This book is her writing that she complied with all she was told to do. She stopped existing. She kept breathing, but she stopped existing. And I think subconsciously is why she wrote this book. Hey, I did everything you told me to do. Stop hurting me. Look, I have reached the final form. I've done what you asked. Stop hurting me. And for it, she was killed. So there's chapter 7. Let's see, I read 2 through 4, so I essentially read 2 chapters. This was 5 through 7. I think I'll stop there for today. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, If you're struggling, reach out to someone. If you don't have anyone and you come by this video, you can hit me up, probably on Instagram, Cat Rice Ball. Otherwise, take care of yourself. Do well by yourself. You're born onto this world alone. You leave this world alone, so the most you can fucking do is absolutely love yourself, because you totally fucking deserve it. And if you get to a point where you feel like you don't deserve it, remember who you are. Actually, who you are. And if you don't know who you are, it's time to start taking yourself out on dates and learning, because you totally deserve your love. Good night.